Why the thumbnail is sideways like that. It's kind of weird. Hopefully I'm right side up though. I'm just getting to the comments. I'm gonna go over here on my laptop. It's time to prove it. Sorry. Let me see here real quick. Sorry. So there's some questions that I was going to go over, asking about some pretty cool things, I think, specifically about efficacy of tabs, which is a really cool subject to talk about. And I kind of am on the other side of things where I have a degree in music, and I'm somebody who taught myself. So I went through the whole gamut of knowing absolutely nothing to having a pretty good grasp on, the application of theory on guitar. And so, I come from a pretty good place to speak about this, I think. So let me just get to where my last live was and find these comments so I can talk about them specifically. Sorry, that's the last video. Okay. So Marshall Antman said, how do you improve on speed? Which that's a separate thing to talk about altogether from the rest of this comment, I think, and I'll go over that a little bit today, because there's a big misconception about it, and I think everything kind of pivots off of that, along with the other comment as well. So I can play super fast blues runs. I've been playing for over 50 years, but I still can't do what you're doing. How do you pick up speed? Do you read music? I used to, so this is a separate question now, right? Which this is the one I'm kind of covering, or I was alluding to. Do you read music? I used to, but real rusty. I can't read tabs. I refuse to. Are you doing all this by ear? Post more, please. You have great potential for YouTube guitar instruction. That's very nice. I really appreciate that. Way better than others. Us being a community, I would hope that we could just build each other up instead of comparing as well. We all are out here, trying our best to get this thing down. So it's better to kind of have a more like synergy view on things, I would say, than a somebody better than other people thing. Hopefully we're all just adding to material to help people out. But that being said, I totally understand where you're coming from, because it does seem that we are kind of inundated with guitar content that's not always the best for lessons, or people who might just spend a little bit more time honing the craft than showing their insights on said craft. So anyways, let's talk about this. So let's talk about the music thing. Yes, of course I read music. Like I said, I have a degree in music. That's a requirement. However, I think you might be conflating something here. I still use tabs every day. I, in fact, give my students tabs. It is the easiest, most ubiquitous thing for guitar. You tell them, here's the number, here's the string, and there's a little more to understand from that. The important component that I think is why you have a refusal of wanting to use them is because it takes the whole music side of things out, really, right? You have no idea about note duration, what's what. You have no understanding of other things that are going on. You simply have a number on a string. But the important thing about this is it gets the person playing what they're after, right? Which sparks the interest, and pushes them through the initial stage of, oh my gosh, this sucks, which is inevitable with anything that you're trying to do that's muscle memory related. So the important thing to take away from this is that while it seems that tablature could be perceived as something that was lesser than sheet music, which there's less information there, so of course it is. It is something that is very useful when just trying to communicate about these things. If I was going to write something down quickly, I'd probably write it out in tab, or I'd chord chart it, or I'd make my own little. I have, excuse me. I was just doing Rick Beato licks, and I wrote all my modal positions out in various scales to try these licks in, and the way that I write my stuff out is just dots on the fretboard, that's just another tool, just like tabs are, to see like a whole fretboard with all the dots, and I can pick these pieces out and be like, oh, let's try this lick in, a pattern that I'm doing in a specific modal position. And so in that case, it doesn't seem like there's much efficacy to read the sheet music, which would show me notes, right, that could be played in multiple places on the guitar, which that's kind of what it boils down to is, And a good example of this is I was just working out Paganini's 16th Caprice, which I worked out in this way, right? That, and we went over that last time. You don't have to play it there, obviously, right? There's a bunch of places you could play this. You have the same notes in multiple places on the guitar, and those specific notes in that pattern can be played in a bunch of different places. That being said, that's the most comfortable and seems like it's the most effective when moving to the next place and the next place, right? And a lot of these are kind of like that, where it's like, well, I'm going to figure it out in a place that's going to be the most advantageous for the next thing I have to do. And then you kind of develop everything in one little area, right? And it could be a different area depending on what you want to do. You want to alternate pick it, you want to sweep it, what do you want to do? That's the point though, right? So then you would be taking sheet music and putting it in a tab, which that's what I do. It is important that the sheet music comes first though. I know note duration and I understand what the composer is trying to get across based on everything else that's going on in looking at the sheet music. And that's the important thing, that it grows from that. But then I know that that's not something that goes away. I then can just have the notes to remind myself in the easiest way to read them, which would be tablature. Now, I would say Marshall Harrison, that guy's amazing, man. I see him pull sheet music out and just read it. Maybe you are pushing to be like him, which is a great endeavor, to be able to just sight read music like that. But that being said, there's no, I would say, there's no huge reason to push as hard as you can for that. It's a good thing to do, but don't forsake playing the thing that you're trying to play just because you don't want to write it in the easiest way to understand it. Okay, so that being said, the other thing you asked was about playing this by ear and stuff. No, I worked it out based off the sheet music, and I kind of wrote. That's why everybody has their own version transcribed by so and so. It's kind of their version of what they're doing. Please post more. Okay, I definitely will. I appreciate the comments and I appreciate you guys. And so now, how do you improve speed? Now, this is a pretty long lesson, or it would be a pretty long lesson to give. I can give you some tips, right? But it's good to have a bunch of different licks and a bunch of different things and applications that you're putting these things in to develop that speed, because speed doesn't come unless you're comfortable, right? That's the big takeaway, and the big thing that I want to get across to everybody is in order to develop speed, you have to be comfortable, right? And as my dad used to always tell me, slow is smooth and smooth is fast, right? And the smoother you do it, the faster you do it. But you got to do it slow first, right? And it doesn't mean the internet meme of if you can play it slow, you can play it fast. That's not what I mean. But it is important to find a lick that you have a good understanding of and a good feeling for, and one that you can maybe just play acoustically as you're sitting around the house and practicing these things, but one that you are thoughtful about, right? Like I have my hand, all fingers pointing towards myself right now. The way that I'm gripping the guitar is important. I have as much of my thumb touching the back and neck as possible, which gives me the most surface area to pinch towards my thumbs, because of course, which is a pinch in the tips of the fingers is what we're talking about here. And so it's important to make sure that all the groundwork is laid and you have a solid foundation before you start trying to sprint to the finish line. And it's also important to understand the mechanics that you're trying to employ, right? I'd recognize there that the hardest part about that is the switch between the strings. And in this case, we're playing the new note on an upstroke and the old note on a downstroke. This is the Paul Gilbert lick, obviously, or Michelangelo video lick, and Paul Gilbert has a very particular way of thinking about this, upstroke, downstroke, right? Right, and so if that's what we're doing, then we're going to take our time and maybe do what he says, which is focus on the hard part, play it a few extra times every time. And then it becomes fast, but it's not fast because I tried to make it fast. It's fast because this became boring to me, because this was something that I could do very easily. And so gradually what happens is you kind of start to get the comfort built up, and then you start to get that fast twitch thing going on. And then now, there I'm just feeling this. Everything I'm doing on this string is secondary to this. right? And so these little things are important to pick out and accentuate, right? And make sure that that's something that you're trying to have be the feel that you're going for, right? Because this is all to do with feel. Now, again, that's important. The proper technique is foundation is laid, right? So we just talked about this hand, but this hand as well, which goes with somebody else's comment, which we'll talk about in a second. But I'm a downward pick slanter, right? And to do the sequence that we're doing right now, starting with a downstroke and then hitting the new string on an upstroke, we would be a downward pick slanter because the old note needs to be down to get us to the upstroke and then up back here to get us back to the downstroke, right? All of that is downward pick slanted, right? Even here when I'm going into the string, my hand is still waiting to do this, right? I'm still slanted down. I am not like this going up into the string, right? Out, away, and back up into the string. These are two different things. If I did start on upstroke, I would have to, as you can see there, that's so hard, sorry. Doing it right afterwards, right? Doing that requires me to do the upward pick slant to get back into it, right? So in that case right there, I would accentuate that feeling. Whereas the other one was doing the upstroke on this string. Because I'm not so concerned about that downstroke because it comes pretty easily after this. Now I'm basing this off of one lick. The lick isn't important. The idea that I'm giving you surrounding the lick is the important part, right? Approach it in this way that you're super analyzing what's happening in either hand and how can you make it more comfortable. Now, how can you make it faster? How can you make it more comfortable and advantageous for you to get to the next note? Okay, that's the way to think about it, at least as a ground basis. And then what you do is you find licks like that one and build them up on your own time. Not necessarily intently. It's good to do the dramaturgy and to sit with a metronome sometimes. It's really good to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But at the same time, developing the feel for it, at least for me, didn't really come from that. It came from sitting around the house and watching TV or doing other things and just not mindlessly, but just doing that one thing as much as I could. All right, so... yeah, okay, good to go for that one. Thank you for the comment, Marshall Ant-Man. This is Dan White 802. Hi, Adam. I'm new to your channel, but I just wanted to say your playing is fantastic. Oh, thank you so much. It's kind of weird I read that out loud. I'm going to dive into those. Yeah. Okay. You have a wrist picking from where your forearm appears totally relaxed, like practically asleep. I've seen the same for Paul Gilbert, Anton Oprin. Yeah. But the ability has eluded me. Okay. Is this something that came naturally to you, or did you have a period? So, okay, let's talk about this for a second briefly. Those guys that you mentioned there are the guys to look at, right? Particularly Paul Gilbert, because he is kind of, godfather of all that, right? But Anton Oprin is a machine, bro. Like Anton Oprin, or if I'm saying his name wrong, I'm so sorry. He is incredible, absolutely incredible. And I don't really employ his technique, but I should. Like the way he's incredible. I watched him do what's the is that the one that one he alternate picked it and it switches every time, down up down up down up, and he does it with these two fingers like this. That's so tough for me. I haven't worked on that at all. That guy's insane. You should definitely check his stuff out and heed his words. That's the important part about this. It's the same thing I did. I saw Paul Gilbert. I took what he said to heart, and then everything I went to go do, I made sure it was in that same vein. Like I didn't take that as like I learned this song from him or whatever. I took it as a this is going to lay the foundation for everything else I play. I'm building my technique right now, right? So every song I approach, I try to approach it in a way that was seeing triads, in those ways that build to the string skips, not necessarily to play that every time, right? But to see all my scales that follow that, right? That's the important thing, right? To lay the foundation of the fretboard, and then again, my alternate picking. That's where it came from. I try to employ that same kind of like I have a lick that I do a lot, which is like where I go off the flat 5 and I pick something like that off of like. Right, that's upstroke on a new string every time. That's a very Paul Gilbert-y kind of thing, right? but it's because I'm playing. That's the kind of technique that I'm employing here, right? So the licks that I develop are based on that technique as well. So that's what I would say to do, is to try to develop some of these licks and things like these people that you're after here with that technique. Go find their licks, you know. I'm not saying you play the what's the ball? I'm not saying to play the very particular Paul Gilbert thing every time, you know. What I am saying, though, is to think maybe about what that means for this wrist back here. And so I will tell you a little bit about what my idea on it, right, which may be a little bit different. But I do remember him saying in a video that you kind of want to, you know, the goal, at least for somebody like myself, and I think him too, I'm not sure, is to, you know, constantly be blocking the strings with your palm until you don't want to be blocking the strings. And I say it in that way because you don't want to have to block the strings when you need to, right? That's not the way to think about it. The way to think about it is to have it down the whole time and then to let the notes ring out that you want to let them ring out, right? And that is a tough thing to get your head around at first. And you kind of think about it as the, you know, with the dampener on the piano, it was kind of the same way, right? Where, you know, it's always down until you push the pedal, then it isn't, right? It's not something that you're pushing the pedal and it's making the notes ring out. You know, there's not a thing you're doing to the notes to make them ring out, right? It's you're lifting felt off of the strings so they can ring out. And so I want you to consider that to be the same thing with your wrist, right? And that puts you in a position here of downward attack on the string. And Paul Gilbert always preached a 45-degree angle. And I kind of do the same thing. I tell my students all the time, you want the pick on the side of the finger. The thumb is going to come and kind of take over right here and push it to the front, right? And it's and you can see we don't go above that front, that very first knuckle right here, right? Which way did I show it? Sorry. Like that, right? And so, and the point of this is to kind of be able now, I remember watching a Paul Gilbert lesson on, I can't remember which one it was, maybe it was in Tinch Rock 1 or something like that, but he talked about always having thumb forward, 45. I find myself doing this a lot, depending, I don't consciously think about it, to be honest with you, and haven't analyzed it too much, but I think that that's something it's not a problem, at least in my opinion, to be able to have this any way you want to, but it's important to be able to do this motion though, I think. So anyways, all right, little playing break. And so this right here, you can see I kind of keep it always like this. You see, not like this. I don't have my thumb touching like this, right? I think somebody like Guthrie Govan would be a little bit more of a player who plays like this, as he blocks the strings with this side. I block with this one. And so my wrist stays like this, and that makes me a downward pick slanter, attacking the strings out this way, not really sideways like this. I come into the string this way. Sometimes I lean into it like a, what's it good? I don't know why I'm playing so many Paul Gilbert licks. Just, I guess, keep it in the same vein of using this this wrist like this. But the big thing to take away from this is the same thing I was just showing before in the beginning of this video is find a lick that you pick outside the string and inside the string and make sure you're pulling up and out, right? This is the motion you want to feel, right? Of course, you need to have a little bit of fast twitch developed, right? Right? I need to make that purposeful. Like this. I'm palm meeting the string, right? This is nice to have. Like the Eddie Van Halen kind of thing that he right? That he kind of hangs it here to tremolo pick, right? We kind of have to have our hand here to do it, so it's good to do it with a palm mute. Like that, right? Picardy third right at the end. Just put a minor 7 in there. I hope that helps. I know I kind of talked in circles there a little bit, but it's, you have to put yourself out there and try some of these licks that have that wrist motion you're looking for in it, right? The only thing I tried to do was play the licks like I saw them. And let's see, what's probably a good, Here's a good one to do that with. You can try just that. Right? Try to keep that wrist motion going the whole time, right? It's the same. We're doing a good way to think about this, and this is what I probably should have led with, is to think about this as the kind of rubber pencil trick, right? Where if we take something that's rigid, right, and we shake it like this, it appears like it's bending, right, when it's really not. And that's kind of the same thing we're doing, except we're actually letting the wrist go here, right? So in the rubber pencil trick, when the front edge leads it, the bottom edge follows behind, right? And it kind of carries this kind of motion, right? We're kind of like whipping it back and forth. We're kind of doing the same thing with the wrist, even on this small level here. My arm's not picking up like this, but I'm twisting up and going into the string this way and pulling up this way, out and in, right? This whole time, right? Even on that small scale. That's what it feels like to me, at least. And so that's what you could focus on doing the strum. That's all. The wrist motion of that is using the weight of my hand to let my wrist go back and forth and the momentum my arm is creating, right? You have to keep a loose wrist in this. Like that. And it's the same, and honestly, it's the same kind of feeling. It sounds crazy to say that, but it's the same kind of feeling. Was it? I know, I forget. Let's see. No, don't think about it so much like that. The way that you're putting it there, something you naturally do, or something. So you can call it natural. It's not like I was, physically naturally inclined to do this, right? Everybody is inclined to do this, unless you have a bad wrist or something, I suppose, right? Now everybody has a propensity to do something quicker than other people, right? But there's no reason you can't train yourself to do this very same thing. It does come naturally in the sense that I did not purposefully isolate a particular muscle group to try to focus on that or anything like that. That's thinking too far. You need to try to accomplish the feat, right? Which could be play this lick, play this song, play this thing that sounds like this, where that person is doing that thing, and try to mimic that as close to it as possible, and look at your movements, look at the thing, and listen to let your ear be the deciding factor of, is it, or is it this? Because that's what I hear a lot, is this people will get this hand going and just kind of have these not quite ready to do anything, right? And the key is to kind of sync the two together. So that's what I would focus on, is finding a lick, something like that can maybe stay on one string, and synchronize with your left hand, of course. That's the whole name of the game. Or something to that degree, that's going to sync your hand and allow you to kind of practice and feel that thing. And then you'll have an audio feedback as well for it. Okay, I'm not so sure if that's the best way to answer your question, and I would love some feedback on what you thought about that answer, because I can't, there's no like great answer to say, this is how you develop speed. There's no great answer to say like, yes, I hold my wrist this way, and this is what I think every time, because I don't think anybody does think about it, right? They see the goal of wanting to play this thing and have it sound this way, and that's what they do. And how they achieve that is kind of, up to you to kind of feel and figure out as you go. As far as the relaxed wrist thing, that's really all it is, man, is trying to use the weight of the hand and the momentum of the arm, right? I'm not saying I'm totally loose in the hand, but I'm loose enough to where like my hand, I kind of feel like it's flat and it's kind of going like this, right? I'm kind of letting it go this way, like that. All right. Curious if people interfere with some process involved learning it. Yeah, so there you go, man. And thanks for the comment. I appreciate you guys coming in here. And I hope that helps. I know it's not really it kind of sucks. I wish I could just like, you have to be thorough in these things. And then I kind of need more feedback from you guys too. So try the things I've said, and if there's something that you don't jive with, or there's like, well, this doesn't help me because of this, and I tried this, I need to like send me a comment, man, and we'll go. That kind of information is super helpful, and then we can kind of move in that direction with other things like, oh, well, you're tackling this thing that's, maybe a bad muscle memory you have now. You're trying to get over the bad muscle memory that you have and learn this new muscle memory, which is a whole different ordeal than starting from scratch and building. Maybe that's the boat you're in, which is, we can talk about that. And I have, as I call them, slump busters to get people out, which frankly suck. They're very fun, but they're tough, obviously. Oh, what is it? Oh man, it's been a while. It's like that, but with all the notes, something like that. But I have a lot of them. That'll go back and forth between different positions for picking, et cetera, that I would love to show you guys. And some of my older lives, I have a lot of that stuff too, but that's tough to go back and cipher through for you guys. So I totally understand if you would like me to show it here too. And I wouldn't mind another excuse for going live. Yeah, so hopefully that's good. That's good help for you guys. I hope it's not too much rambling. And so give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. I'll play it for a second. I'm going to play a bent note because we haven't played really one of those. Sorry, there's a whole group of people that just walked by the door, and I had a thought. I always get so sidetracked. Sorry. Oh, check us out. Here you go. Here's perfect. We were talking about Paul Gilbert, right? Here's a perfect little riff to end on. So the best part about this song is there's. Oh, I messed it up. Oh, it's F. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, pretty cool, right? Man, it took me forever to figure those out. We finally got it though. Cool stuff. And this one. Oh man. It's my bad part playing this guitar. I always play the same thing over and over again. Okay. So let me think about this. I haven't played this in a while. Oh. Oh yeah, we got it now. Oh, sorry. All right, I gotta go. Enough turbo playing. Thanks for watching, guys.